Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Beauvais and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
And it's been a minute. Boy, a lot's happened in the last week plus that we've talked to you. Last time here, it's always game day in Buffalo. Sal Capaccio, Matt Beauvais. Boy, a lot of catching up to do here for our listeners, Matt, and our viewers too as well. Thanks for being with us, everybody.
I took a week off thinking that it was going to be a quiet week. We recorded a podcast early last week. I was lying down for a nap. What everybody told me when I had our first daughter was our only daughter up to this point. I don't know why I said first daughter. When she naps, you should try
existence,
right? It's like when she naps, you should try and rest. So last week on Wednesday, she napped, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to close my eyes for a half an hour and see if I can take a quick nap. In that half an hour, it was announced that the Bills are going to be on Hard Knocks. And I was like, what the heck? I was playing catch up. I was late to the party. So I picked a bad week to take off. But now we're back in the swing of things a little bit. OTAs, voluntary workouts, mandatory minicamp in a couple weeks. So a lot of things to get to today.
No doubt. Let's start with that. Let's start with Hard Knocks. The announcement, the reaction. You know, we've had some time to digest this now. We've had a week to digest it, obviously. We did talk to Sean McDermott about it at the beginning of OTAs when he spoke to the media on Tuesday this week. It's been a week since they've also learned of it. The Bills also, to my knowledge, unless something's changed here in the last 24 hours, I don't think the Bills have officially acknowledged it on like social media. They did talk about it, so it's not like they're, not saying it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a window into kind of how they feel a little bit, which is, hey, we didn't volunteer for this. We never really wanted this. But even Sean McDermott said they knew it was possible because of the rules changing. And that's really how you got here with the Buffalo Bills. But Matt, this was always something the Bills never really wanted to do. And I don't really get the sense that they're eager to do.
I feel like it depends on who we're talking about. So I agree with the sentiment of like the pillars of the organization probably are not interested in this. And that would be Brandon Beane, because he knows what the experience, I'm sure, for Joe Schoen, his best friend with the Giants, was like. I don't think Sean McDermott was, trying to knock down the gates to have Hard Knocks come to Buffalo. I think the players are going to like it. I really do. I mean, like we heard from Deion Dawkins. Of course, Deion Dawkins was going to like it. He said that he was thrilled because he can't wait for the entire nation to see kind of all of the different personalities that the Bills have in this locker room. But I do feel like this is a team, besides Josh Allen and Deion Dawkins and maybe a couple other people, that not many people know about, right? There's not as many household names on this roster. There's just a lot of really good players. So I feel like this is an opportunity for a lot of those guys to kind of take the next step into that window or into that stratosphere that some of their peers in the league are currently in.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it as far as, what they're going to show or not going to show that we don't know yet. So if you go back and think of some of the Hard Knocks started in 2001 with the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know how long back you go watching it, but I remember like when it first came out, like, wow, this is pretty cool. And the most access we've ever had. And then over the next several years, you had the Cowboys, the Dolphins, Chris Hogan, 7-Eleven, because he's always open. Remember, that's how some of these storylines came about. Raiders were on it one year, the Jets and Rex, in the speech that he gave and let's get a sandwich and all that.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that over the years, there's been some Hard Knocks where it's been just pretty much heavily focused on what's going on in the field and following storylines of maybe an undrafted rookie or a young guy trying to make his way, trying to make the team, maybe a veteran who's been in the league a long time. There's been other times where they show that, but man, you get a lot of the off-field stuff. You get a lot of the going back to the dorms, going out with the guys and going back with some of the families. I don't know where that balance is going to be for the Buffalo Bills. And it's, that's going to be interesting to kind of be a part of that and see it firsthand.
It's going to be, in my opinion, more of the off-the-field stuff because the on-the-field stuff isn't as interesting. They're a good team. They're not a team that's trying to rebuild. They're not a team that's trying to figure a ton out. They're trying to go from the AFC Championship to the Super Bowl. So as just a consumer, what's more interesting? That or the golf course stuff, the Catan stuff, the turkey burger stuff, all of the sidebar stuff. That is going to be, to me, what they probably focus on more, which is another reason why I think the Bills are probably more favorable of this than they're at least giving off. That's just my read on it, right? Like there'll still be stuff about football and there'll still be some darling. I've got a couple different names that I think could really kind of pop off in this show that people will really love. But I think a lot of it is going to be like, what are they doing away from camp? What are they doing in the dorms? What are they doing to bond and kind of become closer as a team? Because the on the field stuff just isn't as exciting. because they are already a good team.
So what do you consider the James Cook situation on the field or off the field stuff?
I don't think the James Cook situation is going to be that significant by the time we get to training camp because
Ooh, okay.
I mean, I think it will, right? Like it's always going to be lingering there. This can kind of be a natural segue into the next thing, but him not showing up to the first voluntary workout that we're allowed to be at was at all surprising to me. Like I did not expect him to be there, and I don't expect him to be at the next voluntary workout. It becomes a bigger deal if he skips the first day of mandatory minicamp. But I don't think this is a guy who's holding out during training camp. He doesn't.
Whoa, let me ask a question. What if it's a hold in? That becomes a story.
Yeah, it does. But
if he shows up and he's not practicing, I think Hard Knocks is all over that, and I think we're all over that.
Oh, definitely. I just don't think it gets to that point because if you hold in, right? If he shows up but doesn't practice, he still gets fined, doesn't he?
No, that's why you hold in.
Okay, well, that would be an interesting storyline because
that's why guys have done it over the years. That's why I think TJ Watt might have done it a couple of years ago. But this is what players are doing now. The last several years, once they change the mandatory fines that basically can't be rescinded, players are like, okay, I'll show up. I'm just not doing anything.
I have always been of the belief that James Cook does not have the leverage that he thinks he has.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's in his best interest to make this as little of a headline as possible and just show up and work. I really do. Because who knows? Maybe the Bills are like, okay, you were a good soldier. We're going to give you a deal a couple days before the season, like they did with Dawson Knox and Spencer Brown and a couple other people over I don't think that's going to happen. But I don't know what he is trying to get out of this other than letting everybody know that he's not happy with his situation.
So I agree with you that when we show up for training camp the first day or so, James Cook will be in uniform and he'll be practicing. Mm-hmm. Although I would maybe say one day, maybe a statement. I'm not going to practice the first day, whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay. That said, I don't think it's that simple. I do think this could be getting to a storyline type of deal where whether it's you and I and the media and the team, the people that cover the team on a regular basis, or Hard Knocks, or even Adam Schefter, reporting yesterday and linking Elena Getzenberg's story to ESPN.com, which is James Cook not at OTAs. He's seeking a new contract. This is a story that's lingering. If he's not at mandatory minicamp, which he can be fined for, it becomes another story. So I do think that this is something that's going to be on the radar. And he's not getting a new contract, whether he practices or not. He's not getting a new contract before July 3rd, 23rd, 24th, whatever day that is. Right. So to me, back to the Hard Knocks point, I think that this becomes a bit of a focus and people are talking about this and becomes kind of a national story. Here's this guy that wants his contract. I don't know what line in the sand James Cook is going to draw, to be quite honest. And that's part of the intrigue for me.
Yeah, but I also think we'll have probably a little bit more clarity before we even get to that Hard Knocks point based off of what happens at mandatory minicamp. Because if he does show up right off the gate at mandatory minicamp and he talks and he addresses it, then all of a sudden that kind of gets pushed to the back burner, right? There's interesting ways that this could go. It's not the perfect example, but remember the Steph stuff a couple of years ago where he skipped the first day of mandatory? Well, he was sent home from mandatory minicamp. Mm-hmm. I got to be careful. And then he gets to the first day of training camp and he kind of addresses everything. But even by addressing everything, he didn't really address anything. And it just kind of led to even more questions about whether he was happy or not in Buffalo. I don't see that happening quite to the same level with James Cook.
I would say this. The difference is that was not a contract situation.
Yeah, that was just
that was just Stephon being Stephon in whatever way. I think the closest example might be Jordan Poyer when he actually did hold in the first day of mandatory minicamp, if I remember correctly. And then the next day he's out there and he's like, yeah, I couldn't do that. Like I can't be out there watching my teammates practice. It's going to be interesting. Nobody knows where it's going, which is to me part of the story here. Mm-hmm. The story to me is what really, is going to happen and the wondering of it. And then once you get to training camp, how all of that works itself out, because I do think there's something in there that's going to be people latching onto. That being said, you had some names here for Hard Knocks. I have a few as well. I think all of us know Deion Dawkins as a showman, right? Mm-hmm. And he's going to be in some way, shape or form, finding the camera on Hard Knocks, right?
Yeah.
I envision something like Deion and Keon, because I think Keon Coleman could be a type of personality that would shine on this type of platform.
Oh, definitely. Keon Coleman and Deion Dawkins are kind of like the two gimmies, right? Those are the two 6-inch putts that you just pick up because that they're going to be heavily favored. I think that there's going to be a couple under the radar players that are kind of the darlings of Hard Knocks. One of them I could see being is Alec Anderson. He is just such a personality. He is beloved by his teammates. He still plays a significant role on the team. So he is one. a name that I think could be trying to fight for a roster spot, who's also got a really bubbly and fun personality, is Javon Solomon. I could see him being featured a lot in this because he is in a room. There's a lot of names there now, right? Like, I think last year it was a foregone conclusion that Javon Solomon was going to be on the team. Is it a foregone conclusion that Javon Solomon is going to make this team? I don't know.
No.
So I think he will be somebody we hear from a lot or see a lot on the show. And then Damar Hamlin, right?
Yeah,
like, that's
sure.
just Damar Hamlin is just such a name in sports because of everything that he has gone through.
And they can easily focus a storyline around his situation.
Yeah, that'll be an episode or part of an episode, the safety battle, and then specifically kind of sharing the stories of a player like Damar Hamlin and maybe a couple other people. I think those are the easy ones.
I'll give another one. I know he doesn't talk a lot to us these days, but Tre'Davious White, his personality and the storyline of him coming back to Buffalo and what he's overcome in his career, I think is totally made for this.
Tre'Davious White may have been my biggest takeaway from voluntary workouts. We'll get to this in a little bit. Not anything he even did, just his presence. Like, it was like stepping into a time machine, walking out onto that practice field and hearing the Louisiana accent yelling from across the field at all of his teammates. It was just a different energy and vibe that he was back on the field. So I know he is not love talking to reporters, but I think he loves sharing his personality and being himself. And that's what a program like Hard Knocks is kind of made for.
What about the youngster at his position, Max Hairston? He seems to have that type of personality.
Yeah, he does. I think that'll probably be something there, but you start to get down to, like, I don't know, because we don't know enough about Max Hairston yet to know, the entire story or anything like that. But there's only so many people you can focus on, and there will be stuff on Josh Allen. There will be stuff on Deion Dawkins. There will be stuff on Keon Coleman. So then it's like, okay, how many people can you share their stories of? So to me, he would kind of be in like the second tier of guys who I'm anticipating pop off in that show.
It's interesting. We went all this time without even mentioning Josh Allen being a part of that, which they're going to have some storyline around Josh because he is Josh Allen. He is the league MVP, and he's going to be fresh off getting married to a Hollywood superstar, right? I mean, like, this is going to be, and he also, oh, by the way, just signed the largest guaranteed money contract in NFL history. So there's got to be, a Josh Allen storyline in there, even though it's not salacious.
Yeah, Josh Allen storyline will be shot at Oak Hill on the East Course, and they'll start the episode with a wide shot of the golf course, and there'll be some natural sound of birds chirping, and then you'll hear the golf club, and it'll be the incredible announcer from Hard Knocks. On an off day, there's only one place to find the NFL League MVP. Whoosh, hits the golf club, and then it's like, you reveal that it's Josh Allen. Yeah, it'll be that.
That's Liv Schreiber, right?
Is that the name? Is that the announcer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be that, or it'll be him playing Catan in his locker room, or in the dorm room. Like, those are really the two Josh Allen easy options for them to set up.
And then what about from our standpoint, media? What are you interested in seeing from your standpoint as a reporter, someone who works in sports and news on television, how all this works, watching from the outside in? What are you interested in?
The only thing
I'm not even talking about the finished product. I mean, the actual, like, their process and what they're doing.
The only thing that I am interested in is whether or not this hinders the access that we get. That is really the only thing that I think about. They have responsibilities for Hard Knocks. That's a league partner. That takes precedent over talking to local reporters. The Bills do a really good job of hooking us up with the things that we need from the local level, especially the people. What are there, 20 of us that are probably around the team almost every day in some capacity? Like, they take care of their own, and I think the players are usually pretty receptive to talking to the local people. But it takes a lot more time and effort and energy for all of the stuff that Hard Knocks is going to be doing. So I don't know how they're going to divvy up those responsibilities and how it impacts us on the local level. So that's really the only thing I'm interested in. I'm going to watch. Like, I'm definitely going to watch just because I'm going to be interested in the storytelling aspect of it and to see what kind of like the national narratives are. But when I first heard about the news, that's how I thought of, like, I hope this doesn't change the access or anything like that.
I have not thought about that because I don't think it will. They'll still be there. There will be more interviews that they're going to give and things like that. But I am interested in them like filming press conferences that we're in, not because like, oh, we're going to be on it, but like how much of that they use, right? I think about, look, we are the radio flagship station here, WGR Sports Radio 550. And during training camp, our morning show, Jeremy and Joe, they'll be on site like they always are. They're going to have players coming over and sitting with them. Like, I'm wondering, are they going to be filming all that and putting it on and saying, because a player said something, it's really interesting, they want to put it out there. Like, I'm wondering about that kind of stuff too, that from our standpoint, what we're doing, is it even going to impact everything around kind of what our operation is?
You know what I thought about, and this is crazy. I thought about my wardrobe, that I have to make sure I wear a different shirt every single day, because if I'm going to end up on camera on HBO, I don't want to be wearing the exact same Channel 7 polo every single day. That was something I thought about, of like, oh, and also it'll have a little bit more pressure, which is a good thing, mind you. You got to be on your game when you're asking questions. You can't ask dumb questions, because it could be on camera and it could blow up in your face, right? Like, there's no such thing as a dumb question, but there are dumb questions. So you got to make sure that you're, minding your P's and Q's when it comes to that stuff.
The other thing that I think is really interesting here, and I think this is part of the reason why the Bills have also never really wanted it to be them. It's not just the cameras following you around, distraction type thing. The competitive advantage or disadvantage, and in this case, disadvantage. And what I mean by that is, there have been times where I've watched Hard Knocks, and then later in the year, you see something and a guy on a team goes, oh yeah, we picked up that audible that they were using during training camp at Hard Knocks. Like, literally, I've heard guys say that. And you have to be very careful. They're showing things that are happening in practice. They're showing players and specific parts of players that, of what their techniques are or something like that. I think that's got to be a concern for a head coach. Now, maybe it's over concern. I get it. They're very paranoid in the NFL about everything. But I do remember a player, I don't remember exactly who it was, say, we picked that up when we watched Hard Knocks, and we knew that what they were doing there.
I don't know the process, but I wonder if the football elements of the shows are overviewed or reviewed by somebody on the team. I don't know. I don't know the answer, because journalistically, that's kind of a weird dynamic. Like, journalistically, you do not let somebody look over the work before the story airs or before you publish the story or anything like that. But Hard Knocks is not journalism.
No, but Matt, I think they do it. I think the teams have editorial control now.
So then there you
Hard
go.
Knocks.
Like, I don't think that anything in that show from a football standpoint will be in the show unless the Bills are okay with it being in the show.
Right. So let me explain what that means to everybody. So back when Hard Knocks started, it's okay. Hard Knocks is going to go in and they're going to film all this stuff, and kind of whatever they put out, they put out. I don't think the Ravens, like, for example, the first year in 2001 really had any say. It's like, ooh, what are they showing about us? As it's evolved over the years, there's been a little bit more control go to the team. Like, okay, don't show this, don't show that. It's a negotiation. What are you going to show? What aren't you going to show? Well, over the last couple of years, especially because of things that have gotten out and they didn't like it, and then especially what happened last offseason for that Hard Knocks with the Giants. Remember, we went to the Combine in Indianapolis, and there was talk of they can't find a team. Nobody wants to do this anymore because they've seen what's happened here. They don't want to be the next Giants and Joe Shane getting, plastered all over social media for clips and things that he said, on the air that are backfiring in his face. So basically, the way I understand it now is teams just kind of approve everything that goes out. And yeah, that's not as juicy, but that you understand why. Now, that said, I think the Giants had a lot of editorial control. What happened with them was, I don't think Joe Shane thought some of the things that were going on were going to become a story, and it actually became a story. And that's what you have to watch out for too.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think that is more likely to turn into something juicy than training camp. That's off-season decision-making that can be criticized. This isn't as much of that. Hard Knocks in the summer, as somebody who watched both of them or has watched both of them, the off-season I thought was the most fascinating, because I thought it was the most real and genuine from my vantage point. The off-season one is basically an embedded version of an embedded episode that the Bills do, just produced at a higher level and longer form content for several weeks over the year. That's basically what it is. Like, and now
Brandon Beane. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's basically propaganda is way too strong of a word to use, but it is basically just like a positive PR look for the organization that is being featured, and to try and elevate them into a different level than they currently are. So that is what HBO's Hard Knocks to me does, especially with the training camp version of it.
And Brandon Beane has said that's why part of the reason why he's always said, yeah, Hard Knocks, they've never really been too thrilled about being on. And he's like, hey, we do embedded and we give a lot of access and that's good for us. So that they have used it, from that standpoint. So it'll be interesting to see, what all goes into Hard Knocks when the teams, by the way, so everybody knows it's not just at Fisher and training camp. Yes, that's it. But they'll go on the road for the preseason game too. And I'm guessing joint practice, which was announced, by the way, and reported, I should say, the Bills are going to have a joint practice against the Chicago Bears, much like they did against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not sure if it's going to be 1 or 2 or a couple days leading up to their game there. When the Bears were on Hard Knocks last year, Matt, and they came to Buffalo for a preseason game, I distinctly remember Hard Knocks being in Buffalo at Highmark Stadium and filming that game.
Yeah, and the Bills got, just absolutely taken to the cleaners in that in that preseason game. And it made the Bears look like that was one of those games when you got to remember that the preseason is just the preseason because the Bears walked all over the Bills.
The Bears kind of game planned a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit in the episode or whatever. So, yeah, that'll be something that'll be interesting, how they do the joint practice with the Bears. I'm also very curious if they're going to do a joint practice with the Giants. Like, we haven't heard anything about it. But if the Giants are going to come to Buffalo for a preseason game, don't you think?
I don't believe so.
You don't think there's a possibility that something like that happens?
Is there a possibility? Sure. I'll tell you what I know, though. I will tell you this. I was poking around if the Bills were going to have joint practices with the Giants for exactly what you said. And the response I got was not the Giants, the Bears. And then a day later, it was reported it's the Bears. So I don't think it's happening with the Giants.
All right. Well, the fact that they're doing one of them, I know the team seems to like doing this. I understand why they're doing this. It makes sense to do it against a team that you're not going to play this year. So that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I'm interested to see how much it is, because if it's what the Steelers was, that was a little anticlimactic, to be quite honest, right? Like from a story, the entire conversation of the Steelers joint practice had nothing to do with the fact that they had a joint practice against the Steelers. It was that Matt Milano had gotten hurt, and this was Dorian Williams. So it was it was completely overshadowed by anything joint practice related, because all of it transitioned to, oh no, Matt Milano got hurt. Now this is a huge opportunity for Dorian Williams. So what was being talked about on the radio for that day and the next day before the game, and what was being talked about on TV wasn't anything to do with the joint practice. I don't think probably people even remember what happened in the joint practice, because the Milano stuff was the big takeaway.
You're right. He got hurt right before that. It was announced then that he was out. Yes, that was when it was announced that he was out, but he got hurt before then at practice.
In Orchard Park.
And Curtis Samuel, that's the first time we knew he was going to be out. He had missed those practices that day because of his toe injury. So you're right about that. I would say, though, if you take that away and strip it away, I thought it was really productive for the Bills, that joint practice. I remember getting really good work and watching them go against, the Steelers that day. And if you can get that same kind of work against the Bears and a Ben Johnson offense, I think that's really good for the Bills on defense. And by the way, the Bears are actually holding 2 of them. They're doing Bills and they're doing Dolphins. So they are actually doing a couple of those with a new head coach. So Bills, Bears joint practices. That's preseason week number 2. The Bills announced their preseason schedule. We went through the schedule, Matt and I, for so long. We never even thought about preseason, and it was announced, Matt. You got the Giants at home, as we said. Then you go to the Bears, and then they're going to Tampa, which is super interesting because they actually played the Buccaneers again in the regular season.
Yeah, it's so weird to me. The Tampa game makes no sense. As somebody who's looking at the preseason and even just kind of figuring out travel for the year, I'm like, Tampa for the preseason? Like what?
Longer trip.
That's what I mean. Like, what are they doing already? Like, what are they doing? It almost feels like there was just a weird void. And maybe those two teams were like, hey, you want to play in the preseason? I guess so. Yeah, whatever. I guess we'll do that.
Now, I will say that most likely it's going to be far different players than play in the regular season because it's the third preseason game.
It's the third one anyway.
And teams, and a couple of years ago, the Bills did play their starters in that third game when they only were 3 games, not 4. And I don't know, though. I think that's kind of shifted a little bit. So we'll see if that happens. But that is the preseason schedule. By the way, Bills Giants on August 9th, is it right? Is that August 9th or is it August 10th?
It's a Saturday at 1:00. So let me double check. It would be August 9th.
Okay, and the reason I bring that up is that night is Goo Goo Dolls at KeyBank Center. That's a nice little double dip for Buffalonians. And
I believe I am going to try and get my daughter to that game. She is way too young to be going to a Bills game, but it's the last year, obviously, in the stadium, and I
Mhm.
would like to get her there for a game, and a regular season game would just be way too chaotic. So I would like to be able to get her to a game to say, like, a couple years, hey, honey, like, you were at the old stadium. Here's a picture of you at the old stadium. Because I remember when people talk about the Odd, I was never at the Odd. I don't
Right.
remember the Odd at all. So I always had wished, like, oh, I wish somebody had brought me to the Odd for a game and taken a picture of me, just so I was like, oh, yeah, I was at the Odd at one point. So that's what I'm going to try and do. Get her at the stadium once before the final year.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That is Kids Day, by the way. They have one game
Yeah.
every year, which is Kids Day. That will be Kids Day. The question is she too young to go to a Goo Goo Dolls concert?
She doesn't know the words to Iris yet.
Okay.
Mom and dad do. She
Okay.
does not.
Right.
So maybe if I can get a babysitter, then we can do the double dip
I love
for
it.
the Goo Goo Dolls
We plan on
concert.
being there. So if you want to come, we'll hook up.
I
All right?
love
We'll see
that.
each other. All right. So Matt, last Wednesday, we have not talked since. I had the opportunity, pleasure, honor to be in and film scenes for my character in the Hallmark movie. I've landed a role in the I landed a role in the Hallmark movie. It was not the role I originally applied for, by the way. I originally applied to be the PA announcer inside the Bills Stadium for a scene. I got word that, hey, we're gonna use you, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I got word, wait a minute, but it's not the role I applied for. The role I got is a character named Mike Spencer, I believe is his actual name, and I work for the team. A lot of the movie centers around, believe it or not, the stadium construction.
Oh,
And
cool.
the lead character, played by Matt D'Addario, his name is Gabe in the movie. This is wild. His character is kind of based on John Polka, who
Really?
it kind of in a way, because his position is the guy overseeing the stadium construction.
Okay. Typical
Right.
West New York. Yeah.
Right. So,
All right, this is crazy.
I learned this when I got there. So anyway, I was on all these email chains, and I've had to fill out paperwork and all that kind of stuff. And they said, okay, your shoot date is Wednesday. And we talked about wardrobe. I had somebody call me from costume design. I had to give all my measurements, all these kinds of things. They said, bring other things you have. If you have, Bills gear that I wear on the sidelines when I'm doing the radio broadcast, things like that. So I did all that. I get there. They actually have a trailer, and in the trailer's different rooms, and one door says Mike. So I had my own space, my own trailer to go in and change. And then from there, they're like, okay, now we're going to take you down to makeup. And I walk down. Now you're in TV.
Mm-hmm.
Do you put makeup on a lot?
Okay, no, I used to. Then I realized that it's not going to help. So I stopped wearing makeup. I understand, like, you want to dull the shine on your face with like I know my tone. It is Studio Mac NW30 if I need to go get makeup and what I'm supposed to buy. Yeah, for sure. But I just don't do it because, like, I just don't. I don't want to say I don't care. I don't want to say that I don't care. Right? I mean,
or do you have someone do your hair?
I do my own hair.
I mean, I asked because I've seen TV people, you work with people that like someone else is doing their makeup and their hair for them before they go on TV.
Yeah, my thought has always been that I am there talking about sports, usually about the Buffalo Bills. I'm from Wheatfield, New York, and I live on Grand Island, and I don't love the idea of somebody touching my hair or doing makeup. Not that that would even be an option. I'm just like, you know what? You kind of what you see is what you get with me.
By the way, I met somebody at the Josh Allen 117 holes for golf, went to high school with you. I don't remember his name, but he introduced himself, said he went to high school with you at Wheatfield. So
really,
he played, and he was at Craigburn Golf Course. Anyway, we'll save that story for another time. We can talk. Yeah. But I want to tell you about so the makeup. I go down to makeup. There's people in there doing makeup, and sure enough, I got a bald head, right, shiny head, and they got the lights, so they're patting me down, and you could see some of the blemishes in my skin like kind of went away. I don't wear makeup. I go on TV sometimes with our friend Josh Reed on WIVB, and I'm not doing my makeup before I go on. I'm just talking about the Bills.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I had hair jokes because I had to sit with the person who does hair, and I'm like, well, of course, I'm pretty easy here. I don't have any hair. There's nothing to do here. We had that. Then we all get into a van, and I'm literally in this van with the lead character and a couple other people. It was not a long drive, but it was raining out, so they brought us over to the tunnel area. Now, if you've been to Highmark Stadium, you should know over the tunnel, they have the Wall of Fame and they have those offices. Okay. That's where my two scenes were shot, right up there in that area. I go up into this room and there's just chaos everywhere, people walking around, and then all of a sudden it's quiet because they're shooting something and they're doing a scene and they're in this big conference room. I go in. I did not realize, Matt, that I was in two scenes. I had no idea. I thought I was in one, but I was in two, and they're like, oh, your first scene's coming up. My first scene, you have to sit at this conference table while the lead character is giving like a thank you to all of you in a speech and talking about it. And it was great. It was impassioned. Hey, all this hard work in the stadium. Thank you so much to you and your team. And I'm one of the people sitting there going, yeah, all right. Yeah, good. And nodding and all of that. And the director's telling us, like, when he says this, like, make sure you like, oh yeah, that's cool. Or give a whatever, some sort of acknowledgement. And then you see the cameras come in and, they're filming from different sides, but you see the camera kind of moving real slow and then coming back. And there's a camera over here. You're trying not to look at the camera, not like TV where you do look at the camera, where you're doing what you do.
Yeah.
And then you're getting all those directions. I will tell you, they had to film the scene probably 15 to 16 times, 15 to 20 times, 15, 16 times because of different things. He had to start and stop a few times. There was a couple times where, we want the camera here. Then they do it from a different angle. So that was cool. Then I was done. They took me back to the trailer. I had to change my wardrobe because my next scene was a different day in the movie. Go back. And now I actually have a talking scene with the lead character where we walk down a hallway together, an office, and we talk to each other. And I start off and say, we got a lot of positive feedback from the public forum. That's my line. And
I love that.
It says in the script, Matt, a West Wing style walk. I don't know if I've revealed that before here on this. I know I talked about it on the radio, which means we walk pretty fast and people are just coming up to you as you walk and you have to kind of bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he stops. I keep going. I wait for him. He turns around. He comes up to me. He meets me again. And another person comes in and says, hey, we need this or we need that. And I look at him and go, hey, I'll write that up for you. He's like, no, you go home. Your daughter's Christmas pageant is coming up tonight. You need to go be with her.
Wow. Congrats on the daughter, by the way.
that is my scene. And it was great. And I loved it. And everybody treated me awesome.
That's so cool. That is legit so cool. I mean, I was talking to a couple players about this the other day. I won't say which players, but they kind of made the point like, hey, we love that we're part of this because we can show our kids one day. Like one day we can like bring out the movie and be like, oh, Daddy's in this movie. Like, check it out. Like, I think that's a very cool thing to be part of. So I'm excited to watch it. There'll probably be a hint of jealousy for all of my friends that are in the movie in some capacity. But other than that, I think it's really, really cool. Like, I'm not a Hallmark movie person at all, but now I'm going to find myself watching a Hallmark Christmas movie. I'm going to find myself watching even more Hard Knocks. It's like, it is incredible. All of these different audiences the Bills are now getting because of how big of a brand they have become.
No doubt. And a lot of the story, I guess, does revolve around the building of the stadium, which was really interesting, I thought. And it's a Hallmark movie love story. So, there's that's what it's all about right there.
I bet they get together at the end. I bet they fall in love. I bet. Just a hunch. I got a feeling.
You're probably right. I wasn't there for that scene. I'm not in that scene. So I still get all the emails, though, all the other scenes. And, and I have the whole script and all of that. I can see what's happening. I haven't read through all of that, just my lines. I will tell you, though, when I was there, we filmed that scene too, us walking, again, probably 15, 20 times. And Matt D'Addario, who plays Gabe, we got to know each other a little bit, just talking. I actually went up to him and I said, hey, listen, I said, hi, my name's Sal Capaccio. He says, hi, Sal. I said, I'm in the scene with you today. And I said, look, you do this for a living. I don't. I talk on the radio. If I suck or if you need me to do something different, just let me know. And he goes, actually, the way you're talking right now is exactly the way you need to be for this scene. You're high energy, use your hands. He said, it's great. I'm like, okay, this really fits. So we did that. So we started talking. And then he said to me at one point, after like maybe the 10th take, he goes, a lot of people think being on a movie set is really cool. And it is. It's awesome. But man, sometimes there's 12-hour days and you just do the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that after going through that.
Yeah, well, I am not at all surprised that Sal Capaccio and Matt D'Addario got along with each other.
That's right.
A lot of vowels there.
Yes.
So I'm glad that the scene went well. And now I hope that makes its way into the movie, right? I know that they shoot a ton of stuff. And
I know. It's what I'm thinking. Please don't cut me out.
Yeah, exactly. So you better did a good job or else you're not going to see yourself in that movie.
I hope so, too. All right. So we get to... After all that, thank you, by the way, for letting me indulge everybody. And it's going to be really cool. And I can't wait to watch it as well. We get to Bills OTAs.
Yep.
And after James Cook, Sean McDermott informs the media, Joey Bosa out with a pulled calf.
Yeah.
Two responses that I saw mostly on social media to this. Number one, here we go. Joey Bosa, he's always hurt, which I totally get that response from people. Number two is Who cares? Keep him in bubble wrap until playoffs. That's when they need him. And I get that response too.
Yeah.
What do you think about Joey Bosa's situation?
The exact same two things, honestly. I know that that's the low-hanging fruit in this situation, but when Sean said it, I didn't roll my eyes because who am I in a position? I'm not going to roll my eyes, but I'd be like, oh man, like the guy with the injury history is already injured before they've even gotten really onto the field. Like that's very fitting. But when they signed him, I think in the first podcast I did with you, I was just like, what he provides from the summer until November should be insignificant. Like you were bringing this guy here to make plays in December and January. Like that is why you were signing him. So having him healthy then is of the utmost importance. Not a great sign now for a calf injury before the season has started. Like that's concerning. So getting him back up to speed. I know that they said he should be ready for training camp, but then you wonder, like, is he going to be ready or is he going to be limited during training camp? And like the one good piece of news is like that is a position where you almost could just kind of like plug him in. Like there's not a ton that he need. You know what I mean? Like
okay, so that's interesting. Let me ask you about
this. Is not a wide receiver. This is not a wide receiver.
No, that's right. I see what you're saying. Like, I mean, go get the quarterback, right?
Yeah,
right. Yeah. You could do that. That's right. But Matt, you have to. I think about it in this sense too, though. They signed 3 defensive linemen in free agency: Joey Bosa, Michael Hoyt, and Larry Ogunjobi. You're already without Hoyt and Ogunjobi for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're dealing with this from Joey Bosa. I mean, they better have. You mentioned Javon Solomon earlier. I don't care if it's Javon Solomon, Landon Jackson. Someone needs to probably step up on this group pretty early because you're without these guys, and whether Joey Bosa is healthy enough to play in game 1, which you hope he is. Mm-hmm. I agree. He's probably not going to be getting all these reps. So who's stepping up and who's playing? Somebody's got to make their mark.
Yeah, the name that immediately pops, it's AJ Epinesa, right? Like AJ Epinesa went from a player who we didn't know what his role in the team was going to be. We still don't know what his role on the team is going to be, but he's, to me, the front runner to be the guy.
Don't you know what you're already getting from him, kind of?
Yeah, but they've been fine getting that from him for the last several years, honestly, right? So, like, I would almost think that it's just still his job, and then they use Javon Solomon and Landon Jackson as, kind of like the – for a second, I stopped there. I said Landon Jackson because I was thinking to myself, is it Landon Jackson or Landon Johnson? Landon Jackson will get some sort of rotational role with the other guys that they have there until Hoyt is back, until, but I think it's I'm not saying that you are getting to this. I feel like it's very presumptuous to think that he won't be ready for the season. So I'm still anticipating, even if they go as slow as humanly possible, that he will be ready to go unless there's another injury or setback before that.
In fact, I'll say this, Matt. You and I have been around Sean McDermott long enough, have talked to him enough times to know he doesn't put timelines on injuries because it just puts them in a position.
He doesn't want to pigeonhole themselves.
100%. Exactly. And what did he say? He actually said he thinks he should be ready for training camp. For him to say that tells me I think that he'll be ready for training camp.
Yeah, it almost feels like he was saying, like, if this was a longer phase of the offseason or earlier, we would expect him back, and almost like, he should definitely be back before training camp starts.
Yeah, so Joey Bosa out for the rest of the offseason program, and then hopefully back for training camp. We'll see about James Cook. And then, of course, you had your observations from OTAs. Did anybody stand out to you?
One guy really did, and it was just because of how much I saw him. Elijah Moore. Mm-hmm. I think Elijah Moore is going to be a piece for this team. It is just a day. It is one day of OTA, voluntary workouts, so I do not want to get carried away. But I left thinking, like Elijah Moore is going to have a role on this team, and he's just like got this skill set that I feel like they're going to be able to unlock. And it's a nice compliment of a player that they haven't really had in a couple of years. It's not the perfect comp, like a lot of John Brown similarities, right? And how successful he was in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. I like that. He's John Brown wasn't the biggest receiver. I don't know, maybe about the same size. I have to go back and look what John Brown and Elijah Moore are. But Elijah Moore's a little bit smaller. But man, he has speed. We saw some separation. He had one play where he really separated from Tre'Davious White. I thought Tre'Davious White there was some good and some bad from the play on the field, but I thought he looked good and fresh. You know what I mean? Yeah. Overall, like what you brought up, just the presence of him. I think, seeing him out there in all the situations he was out there, because he was doing everything 7-on-7, 11-on-11, like just a good sign to see. They're just jumping right in with him. But there was a play where Elijah Moore kind of ran away from him because Josh had time. It's 7-on-7 or no pass rush really. And you saw the speed that Elijah Moore brought right there. And I agree with you. They were hooking up. That was really great to see from that standpoint. The other receiver I'll bring up is Keon Coleman, and partly because of what Sean McDermott said about him. Mm-hmm. McDermott said Keon Coleman, he basically really praised him, said how proud he was of him, all the work he put in this offseason and getting, bigger and stronger and doing all the things he had to do. Then you go out on the field and you see, not that he wowed you or anything, but it looked like a guy that, is going into his second year that kind of knew the part.
Need more from him. I think that they are, I don't want to say impressed because it's way too early, but I got the sense that they are happy with how the last couple months have played out. But now it's about stacking those months through the part of the offseason when they really need him to prove himself, which is training camp and then eventually the season. So a good step in the right direction, it seems like, for Keon Coleman. And then I'll also bring up, I thought there were a couple of nice plays from Curtis Samuel on the first day. There's one play where he absolutely cooked somebody, and it was a route that I thought we would see more of last year, but I think the injury was lingering longer than any of us ever knew, and that's probably why he really wasn't an impact player until the end of the season. So I was like, oh, it's just like another nice little option to have in your back pocket as somebody who should be able to come in and contribute.
Yeah, how about defensively? I thought Dorian Williams flied around, but that's to be expected. This is kind of, these situations are tailor-made for Dorian Williams.
They're tailor-made for athletes. They're tailor-made for athletes.
He is, and he doesn't. But I was impressed. He really showed some closing speed, which was great, and he's always had that, right? But I think that there's a comfortability to know, and you hope that Matt Milano gets back somewhat at all to what Matt Milano used to be. And I know that he's older now; he's been through some injuries, but we started to see a little glimpse of that towards the end last year, when he came back in the first playoff game and then a little bit in the second playoff game before he got hurt towards the end. Anyway, there's a comfortability of knowing that, look, if Matt Milano can't play in a game, something happens, Dorian Williams is there, and he really looked good last year, did a lot of good things. There were things he needs to work on. Sometimes he goes too fast, but I just think he's a really solid backup to have there.
I feel like a lot of the defense has been about not just bolstering the players that they already have in starting roles, but also giving them a little bit more depth behind those players. And I think that that's something that we will see, especially as you get into the season when the injuries start to happen, right? Like you can go a couple spots down, especially at cornerback last year, right? Like cornerback kind of hit a wall after their top two guys. And we saw that in the AFC Championship when Kaiir Elam had to come in. And really from the point that Christian Penford got hurt in that game, it didn't really feel like the Bills had a chance. Linebacker, you could say the same thing with Dorian Williams kind of slotted in right now as your third linebacker. There's still some questions there. Defensive line, obviously, once they get through the suspensions for Hoyt and Ogunjobi, like they have a lot of names now on the defensive line and even the safety position, because I think we're all expecting a step forward for Cole Bishop. I'm going into the offseason is like, this is Cole Bishop's job to lose as one of the starting safeties. You feel a lot different about the safety room if DeMar Hamlin is your primary backup than you do if he is your primary starter.
But a lot of the hinges on Bishop, I agree. I think Bishop's a really key piece of which way he goes, how the defense could go this year based on that, right? Last observation from me from OTAs, Terrell Bernard wearing number 8.
It's weird.
I'm telling you, I confused him with Taylor Rapp more than once.
So did Dom Tibbetts, who's sitting across from me
Rapp
right
wears
now.
9, and they look the same.
He said he confused Taylor Rapp and Terrell Bernard.
Yes.
He was like, I thought Taylor Rapp just put on 40 pounds and just got ripped.
Right.
Yeah.
He is a little bit bigger, but they're kind of the same height, and they both, it's 8 and it's 9. And one was wearing a leg wrap yesterday and the other one had worn a leg wrap. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I don't love 8 as a linebacker number at all.
I don't love it either. All right. Whatever. So let's set everything up for everybody. The Bills are on the field on Wednesday. In fact, probably right around the time we're recording this, but we're not there because no media access. Also on Thursday, they're back on the field next Tuesday for a media session again, and then 2 more times, and then mandatory minicamp June 10, 11, and 12. Then they're off until training camp. But we'll come back at you here either later this week or shortly before then, or we'll talk about what happens next time.
Yeah, your guy Zach Hyman looks like he's out for the year. Surgery.
The year?
Yeah, the season. Elliot Friedman, Chris Knobloch says Zach Hyman getting surgery today, likely out for the season. That is a tough blow for Edmonton, especially as they're getting ready for, they're up 3-1 in this series.
That's terrible.
Let's assume they win one of their next 3 games. They go to the Cup. That's a player you need to try and win a Stanley Cup, especially against a team like Florida. So that's tough.
Yeah. Zach Hyman, by the way, very big Bills fan. So obviously, thinking of him and the fact that he won't be able to participate with his team as they make this Cup run for sure. So,
indeed.
Terrible news there. All right, Matt. For next time, for Matt, for our producer Mike Robier, Everybody else, thank you for watching at Sal Sports on YouTube. Also downloading, subscribing, wherever you can get your podcast. We appreciate you.